The ninth Faversham Fringe will soon be over, but not before more than 25 acts have appeared in the three venues over the final weekend of the 24th, 25th, and 26th of October. And I am endeavouring to catch up with some of the final weekend's talented performers. Today I'm talking to CK Nath about her show A Bit of Foreign Stuff, which will be performed at the Alexander Centre on Saturday the 25th at 8:30. Hi, CK.
Hi, Wendy. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. So what inspired you to create A Bit of Foreign Stuff?
So, a bit of foreign stuff is actually the one that I'm playing in Faversham is going to be one of the many sort of solo series that has started. It's my first solo show, A Bit of Foreign Stuff, so it's very exciting because previously I've done lots of split bills across the different fringes, but this is going to sort of be the first one which packages the whole deal together. What inspired it? It's really it's a lot of stuff about my life, about my experiences. Um, and I think it comes from the need to try to tell stories that entertain me, and I hope those stories will entertain other people. um,
Okay. Okay.
and
So,
every time I've done it, I've got an at a girl. So I'm like, let's take the next step.
so apart from the obvious and avoiding spoilers, what is it all about?
So it's really a light-hearted, sort of energetic stand-up comedy hour. If I could really describe it, it's like a bit of coming together of two cultures, and the fun and beauty of, embracing another culture. It's glimpses of my life growing up in India, sort of finding myself in the UK, which doesn't happen more. It's usually the other way around. People go to India to find themselves. Haha, look, this is what things turn around sometimes. An Indian walks into England to come find themselves. There's a lot of storytelling, there's a bit of character work, but really it's about what happens when two cultures come together. There's a lot of fun, there's a lot of naughtiness, but in sort of in a nice way. But it's something that will always, you learn about things you thought, oh, I didn't know that happened in your family as well. I thought that was a very English thing. But yeah, there are lots of those kind of overlaps, but it's a cultural piece, let's put it that way.
Okay, okay. So are there any particular themes in the show that you feel will really connect with your Faversham audience?
Um, I mean, I think in the UK we all know that half of India is probably in the UK, right? We all know somebody who's Indian. We all love a good curry. We all have a thing for Indian food. But I think there are certain parts of the country. So London, for example, but every person will probably have an Indian friend and know something about the culture. But as you go out sort of towards Kent or towards sort of the smaller towns, which are not as big as London, Birmingham, Leicester, those relationships are sort of stop somewhere at your curry shop or a story or a film you saw. And so I think for people of Faversham and a lot of other towns, and which is why I try and gig a lot in these smaller towns where people get to see the inside of what, the Indian culture is. What happens when we come here? And what are the things that what are our little quirks? What are the things that amuse us, and where is that beauty in those two things coming together? Britain and India go a long way back, and we have a lot of shared sort of culturalisms. Is that an English word?
It sounds English enough to me. And do you touch on the problematic side of being not English in England? The immigration, being, for want of a better word, an immigrant.
um, I don't talk about it in a way as a heavy subject. This show is supposed to be lighthearted and to put a lens to it. So there is, I'll put it this way, there might be some mentions, some political mentions here and there, but it's not a political show. It's more about, it comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of experiencing as an enthusiastic girl who came to the UK, and what were her experiences. And so very much um, putting those sort of problematic sides to, there's so much going on right now in the current climate that I think I'd love for people to see it in a different light.
Mhm.
um, and to see what that's a side, every sort of Indian comedian or a brown comic or a black comic comes and talks about these sort of struggles. And I for one want to say, you know what, let's start from a different side. Let's talk about the fun side of these things and navigate from that. Let's use a different lens for this show.
How very refreshing. So it's obvious that you are hoping your audience will laugh throughout
Oh,
because
I
it's
really hope
light-hearted.
so. It has
Are there
happened.
moments of pathos? Are there moments of sadness and reflection at all?
There is a moment. There is a moment of sort of where the show dips, but it's more of sort of reminding people that not everything needs to be like everything is good and fun. Um, but it kind of connects to where I got the title of A Bit of Foreign Stuff and the origin of it, which is a very beautiful anecdote. And I was earlier thinking I'll probably share it with you on this call, but maybe I'll save it for later.
Yeah,
But
I
that's
would keep your powder dry on that one.
yeah.
So, stand up. Exhilarating, nerve-wracking. Do you have any unforgettable moments that you've experienced that you really hope you don't experience again?
Oh my God, Wendy, so many. Good ones and sort of embarrassing ones. I think good ones. I think every time I go on stage, um, and it's a nice full room and the audience is locked into the stories and my act outs and what I'm telling them, it's almost like even if I've told those stories 100 times, it's like riding a roller coaster with a friend where the louder they scream, the louder you scream, and you just keep going down and up that ride, and you go like, you give me energy and I give you back, and I leave that stage feeling amazing. um, but on the other hand, there are also the other sides which are not as amazing. Like for example, I did out of the fun bits, I recently did a gig in my local area, and it was a beautiful gig. It was a festival. It was for a fringe festival, and we had some amazing sort of live at the Apollo Comics here. And I was quite nervous. I was like, okay, I need to do my best bit, blah de blah. It was amazing. Left the show 3 days later, two people in a supermarket stopped me to say, hey, we saw you at that show. That was amazing. And that was such a nice feeling to have, to go away with somebody actually remembering, and they were quoting some of my jokes to me. And that had not happened before. So that was a really lovely thing. But I think talking about when it's not always been amazing, because you must never forget your failures either. I did a I did a gig in Birmingham in this really fancy venue. There were about 200 people in the venue, and I had done 8 shows in that weekend. Before that show, eight
Wow.
shows and I was burnt out. I was so burnt out. I reached Birmingham. I was chased by geese by the canal. I barely managed to get to the venue to jump onto my spot. I jumped onto my spot, sort of hyperventilating still. And I started my set. I did a whole bit about my name. And I realized I was getting nothing from the audience till I reached the punchline. And I realized I had not told them what my name was. And everyone looked so confused. And I thought, oh my God, I really hope I had to pick up the audience, and I eventually did halfway through the show. But that was not great because when I left that gig, I wanted to make sure no one was looking at me and no one saw me, unlike the supermarket incident. And somebody tapped my shoulder and they said, oh, were you not at the gig at the back there? And I was like, oh my God, I really hope nobody recognized me. I put a hat on myself and then I walked out of there. But yeah, so you have good moments and not so great moments that you want to just bury your head in the sand and
And get back up there and be a success the next time.
get back up there.
So, if there was one thing you hoped your audience will take away from your fringe appearance, what would it be? Apart from remembering your name.
Apart from remembering my name. I'd say this, that I think what I personally like about this show is that I don't leave anyone with any big, sort of deep, heavy message to take around. But I do, in this time of divide in the world, not just, locally, globally, everywhere, we can see that. We're all witnessing that. This divide of us versus them. It's such an important time to recognize the beauty in otherness, to recognize that there's something fun in what you're not used to, what's not familiar, and to embrace that. And what you see as a culture clash can be something so amusing. Take what you want to take from it, enjoy what you want to enjoy from it, leave what you don't like out of it, and have a good laugh. Nothing's going to change that. 1 hour, you'll probably forget what you're really depressed about in your life. But maybe going back there, you'll leave with a little bit of a fun tagline, a little memory, an image that you may or may not see on the show that a lot of people want to keep as merchandise in their house. That's all that I'll leave you with. But no, I hope that everyone sort of leaves lighthearted, but remembers culture, the beauty of cultures.
Wonderful. Great. Well, you've heard it here. If you're like me and fascinated by India, but also fascinated by blends of culture and the beauty of them, go and see a bit of foreign stuff, which will be performed at the Alexander Centre on the 25th of October, this Saturday at 8:30. Tickets are online at favershamfringe.co.uk/what's-on. So, a blend of education, information, culture, entertainment, all delivered in a light-hearted, high-energy hour. What more could you want? Thanks, CK, for talking to Radio Faversham and the people of Faversham today, and good luck with the show.
Thank you so much. See you there.
Okay.